Hey! So, last week we talked about Days of Blood and Starlight, which is book 2 of the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy. So, we've talked about those two. Now, this week we're going to talk about Dreams of Gods and Monsters, which this is my first time reading through this book. When I was in high school, I read the first two books. I don't remember the ending of the second book, actually, and I never made it to the third one, for sure. So, first time reading this, all new to me, but it's so good. Definitely read the first two books if you haven't already, and watch the first two videos about this trilogy. Book 3. Still not my favorite. Book 1 was definitely my favorite overall. But book 3, so we've met the angels, we've met the Chimera, we've gone through the very end of book 2. The angels are invading Earth because they want guns, they want weapons and technology, which is dangerous. We don't want that to happen. So, the Chimera and the Misbegotten have teamed up to stop them. They are hiding in some caves, there's some drama. It almost doesn't happen, but they make it work, everything's fine. They're figuring things out. They're living together, getting ready for war because there's like 400 of them or something versus thousands and thousands of Dominion soldiers. So they got to be ready to fight because they have one resurrectionist. She's not going to be much help in the middle of battle, you know? So lots of drama. Obviously, the entire series basically. Lots of drama between the Chimera and the Angels, between Akiva and Karu, because it's like a really much better Romeo and Juliet, and whatever. Whatever. So much drama. Anyway. Again, the introduction to new characters is very abrupt. So in the second book, we met, what's her name? Sveva or whatever. And it was a very, very, very abrupt. And I personally was like, I have no connection to these characters. I don't know who this is. Well, this book starts that way. So you start to read it, and you haven't even gotten to like the Chimera and the Misbegotten soldiers yet. It's just, here's Eliza. I was like, who is Eliza? I know of Karu and Akiva and Susanna, but who is Eliza? You figure it out later in the book. There's a lot. Basically, this one goes between Akiva and Karu and Eliza. So it kind of goes back and forth between the three of them because Eliza becomes a major player later in the book. Not even like major, but she has the potential to be very big, and she is very important to them and to their understanding of things later in the book. So we see a lot more of the Stellians in this book. In the second book, we got a little bit more of an introduction to them. We've learned that even though we don't know much about them, they have a lot more of the technology. They're a lot more of a peaceful people than the Emperor. And, well, I guess JL is the Emperor now, so the Emperor. But we learn in this book that the Queen of the Stellians is actually not a very peaceful person, but she keeps peace because that is what the people want. Basically, Akiva keeps using magic, and that's why we kind of see them, because they're like, we gotta find this guy because he's using magic in a bad way, maybe using it for good, but the way that it affects things is not good, because magic is its own, like, force, you know? And you learn a lot more about that toward the end of the book when they actually, like, talk to him and stuff. So, like, the beginning of the book, you kind of see them, but they're, like, invisible and behind the scenes. And then at the end of the book, they're actually like, yo, you're one of us, and we don't want to kill you, but you gotta get your stuff together, you know? We learn a lot more about the history of the angels and what that has to do with the Stellians, because the Stellians are a very, like, old group of angels. And we've met Razgut in the first book, and he doesn't really come into play as much in the second book, except for the fact that, like, he obviously was found by the soldiers and whatever, and they brought him to JL and was like, the humans have these weapons. So really Razgud plays a major part behind the scenes in the second book because he's the reason that the angels have decided to invade Earth. But you still don't know why he's fallen, because in the first book, Akiva was like, I'm not going to talk to this thing, and so we don't know anything about him. But in this book, as we get to know the history of the angels and of Eretz, really just the history of the angels and how they came to Eretz and who Razgud is, and he's one of like the original angels, and how the Stellians come into play and all that, you get to learn a lot more of the history, which I was really excited about because I love the behind the scenes sort of history of worlds in books. And a lot of times you just get that in like fan theories and fan made things, but this is actually from the author in a book about the history of the world. As we learn that there's a lot of tragedy, a lot of fighting, a lot of angst. Akiva and Karu are teamed up, but they're also like, can we love each other? Can we have a happy ending? We really want to, and things seem to be working out, but then, oh my god, there's not. People are dying. Are these people alive? You spend a lot of the book wondering, is everyone alive? Is everybody dead? What's happening? Oh my god, I don't know. You'll learn a lot more of, like, background characters, too, which is cool. Like, Esther, the fake grandma, she comes back in this. Kind of a bitch, honestly. Don't really like her. You'll see why when you read it. But, whatever. It's fine. It's fine. So, the fighting is done. The angels get brought back to Eretz. No weapons, thankfully. Everything's fine. Bring back, and you're still like, is everyone alive? Happy ending, by the way. This one has a lot more of a happy ending because it's the end of the trilogy. And I really like the fact that the first two books ended with like, the first one was like me in tears. And then the second one was like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? Am I gonna cry? I'm probably gonna cry. And then this one, I think I cried a little bit, but at the end of it, it was like, happy times. Fighting is over. Everyone's happy. Everyone's getting along. Still not entirely happy, though, because in the last few chapters, I mentioned that the Stellians come back and are like, Akiva, you have to learn how to control your magic and how to use it the right way. Well, now, of course, he has to go away because Haru has to go and save all the souls of Lormindy. So we learned in the last book that they're all trapped in the underground the cathedral. They're all trapped there. So she has to go save them. Akiva has to learn his magic. They can't do that together, of course. So not entirely happy in the last few chapters. We still see from each of their points of views in the last few chapters. That's where Eliza comes back to and kind of teaches like, this is how the history of everything relates to the future of everything. This is what's happening. So super cool. She is actually very, very important. It's really confusing while you're reading it. They're like, who is this girl? Oh my god. And eventually, when she figures it out, you figure it out, and everything's great. Eventually, there is a happy ending, and this happy ending leaves room open for the series to continue, which I was really, really happy about. So because of the way that Eliza is important, and because of the things that she teaches them and tells them, that leads into an entire another series with the same characters. And I need to look more into her books and her writings, because I know there's another like ebook novella about Susanna and Meek's first date, which is cool, but I want like the future and more of these characters. And it's possible because of the way this book ends. It's entirely possible. The only problem that I have with this book is the abrupt introduction of new characters, especially at the very beginning. Because, like I said, you start the book and you're just like, I don't know who Eliza is. But okay, like, I'm here for Karu and Akiva. I don't know who Eliza is, but I guess I'll get used to her. So, whatever. She is very important to the plot, though, so I'll accept it. But it is just also very, very abrupt. And it kind of has to be, because she doesn't know the main characters until later in the book, so whatever. That's the only problem I have with it. Things that I love, still the writing style. I'm going to talk about this in every single video. It's so amazing, and it keeps you reading, because when you go from character to character, She actually tweeted about this the other day, that it's very hard because then you have to redo all of your character building with every single chapter, and you basically just have to start from scratch every single time, and like have to remember where the character is so you could restart with them, which obviously is very hard to do, and I really appreciate all the hard work that goes into that. And it's the best. It worked out really, really well, and it's so amazing. I love it. Um, the honesty of how the characters react to war. Because war changes people, and war is very hard, and I wouldn't really know because I've never seen war firsthand. Um, Obviously, I'm young and I live in a city in America, and I'm just casually living my life. I don't know what war is like firsthand. I don't really want to know what war is like firsthand, honestly. But I appreciate how in this book Susanna especially changes, because the other characters have been living with this war their entire lives. And Karu, yes, as Karu, she doesn't really know what it's like, but she also has all of the memory and all of the life of Madrigal, who lived this war and fought in this war for her entire life. That's what they grew up with and what they were born into. So Susanna comes in and sees this. She starts out as this happy, bubbly person, and as she starts to see her new friends dying, she obviously changes. And I really appreciate the honesty and the development of the characters in that sense. I loved the ending of this. As I've said, I love that it leaves the door open for a new series. Even if that series doesn't happen, there's always a possibility. Because the first two, it was like cliffhanger, sadness, whatever, and then this one's like, it's happy, but it could continue. Yeah? Yeah, just continuity of characters and the way that they develop through the entire series is great, because they all start out this way, and they develop in a realistic way. So it's not like they start out and are completely different by the end. I mean, they are, but the development along the way makes it to where this difference is a realistic point, which I love, because some books, they'll change the characters, but it's like, how did we get here? That's not how this works. But in this series, it's a very realistic change. So overall, I would say 4.5 stars for Dreams of Gods and Monsters. So, because the first book is still my favorite, and it got 5 stars because it's the best book ever. The second book I didn't love as much, but it was still really good, so like 4 stars. And this one is somewhere in between those, so 4.5, which gives the entire series an average of 4.5 stars. Because it's amazing and I love it, and I definitely recommend that you go and you give it a shot. I found mine at Books A Million. So, and it's the entire series, honestly, I think cost me under $30, because the second and third book I bought used. So they were like $5.50 a piece. The first one's the only one I bought new, and it was only $13. So I think, yeah, less than 30 for the after tax for the entire series. It was probably like 27. I don't know. I didn't do the math on that. I bought it like a year ago. The point is, cheap. You can probably find it for even cheaper online. In my bookshelf video, I mentioned my favorite book buying website, which is Thrift Books. And I haven't looked on there to see if they have it, but presumably they do for probably pretty cheap. So definitely recommend giving that a look, or look at, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, whatever, some bookstore somewhere probably has it. Definitely recommend getting it, buying it online, buying an ebook version of it, whatever you gotta do, give it a chance. So, next week we are going to talk about The Door Within, because that is what I am currently reading. It's good so far. I've only read a few chapters of it though, so we'll see. But look forward to that. Like, subscribe, let me know your thoughts on these books, and also recommendations for more books down below so I can read those when I'm done with my next series or two or whatever. But yeah, bye.